Okay, so I'm not going to be looking at the comments right away because I want to cover what I'm trying to cover. And also, if you are one of those that are just got nothing positive, not positive, but you only have negative things to say, keep your opinions to yourself. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to want to listen to me. But if you don't want to listen to me, then don't be on my live stream. Simple as that. It's not that hard. I mean, I'm sure that you have something to do. It's Sunday, for at the very least, go worship God or something. But I have the right and to talk and the freedom of speech. And so that's what I'm going to do. And if you don't like it, then there are millions of other things that you could be doing. So stop stalking. And why is it so important to you to get, respond to something that I say? So I'm going to be 100% transparent with you guys throughout the whole thing. I'm not trying to make you believe anything. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm simply venting, and if you choose to watch this, then then that's your choice. Thank you. I always, and no matter what, whether it's about me or it's another topic that I'm doing, I always tell you guys, do your research, practice your right to the Freedom of Information, submit Freedom of Information Act requests, review records, cross-examine them, and come to your own conclusion. So, um, that's what I'm going to say on that. Now, um, this I haven't been officially arraigned because I asked for more time to finalize my getting a private counsel, and so the next court date for arraignment is on February 20th. I did receive this from that court date, which is a list of all the charges, and some new ones were added. Again, just because this is what they want to charge, that I've not been found guilty of this. One of while you're doing your Freedom of Information Acts request, maybe trying to read up on exactly how the court works. But basically, these are their poker chips, right? These are what they have to work with. What things that they could give, negotiate with. So starting on September 7th, let's see, September 7th of 2024, not from December 9th of 2025, they say that I committed a felony animal abuse or neglect. So where did it go? That date, I don't know. Hey, you think you can keep it down? Thanks. It wasn't on that date exactly, but I have submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to the Sheriff's Department, to Windsor Police Department, to see, what it is that they're talking about, because I have had no idea. This is the first that I've ever heard of it. Well, the sheriffs don't have anything in their system, meaning that there was no incident, there was no report, there was no contact with police, there was nothing. The only thing that happened on that date was, or around that date, actually, and there is a witness statement that I'm going to show you guys in just a second. But that was the day that my dogs were hit on the side of the road on Old Redwood Highway by Windsor Police Department. You don't have to take my word for that. I'm just telling you, I didn't see them hit my dogs. I know that I was being detained closer to the mobile home park with my other dogs, and that two of them had ran off. And I know that at some point, one point or 2 points, I guess, Windsor Police Department, the vehicle that was parked on the side of the road, went down the road and reversed back. And then a little bit later, went down the road and reversed back. Later on, when I was walking back that way to go find my dogs, I found both my dogs on the side of the road. The witness that provided a statement called CHP. Understandably, they didn't want to call 911, being as that they just saw a cop car hit a dog and then reverse back. That's how I knew for sure. I mean, I had my suspicions, obviously, but it was confirmed was that witness, and I want to say thank you to him for being willing to provide that. but so that's allegedly that's the first time that I committed abandonment, right? Even though I didn't have a car, I called animal control. It says that that my partner called, but he wasn't the one that called. I called. They said that they didn't know whose jurisdiction it was, whether it was North Bay's jurisdiction or Sonoma County's jurisdiction. Then claimed to have told me that I had to go get them myself when I told them I didn't have a vehicle. The only thing they said was that if they picked them up, that I wouldn't be able to get the cremation of them. Well, I wanted the cremation, but still I didn't have a vehicle. So, I said, okay, fine, then just go ahead and pick them up. And they left them there for 5 days. But luckily the pictures were taken by CHP and the fire department and the witness, as well as other witnesses that show, I don't even want to spend that much time on it, but my dog's bottom jaws were taken off from the front of their cars. My dogs were hit going southbound on Old Redwood Highway, but their faces were hit, meaning that the dog was turned around like that. They ended up laying side by side like this, one facing this way, one facing that way. And I'll read you the statement in a second. But that's the first charge, okay? The second charge is May 13th. And that's when a dog had came down from the San Bernardino shelter that had a bite history. She had new puppies. And the advocates that advocated for her, the shelter rescue coordinator, and the foster, all believed that if we were to put her in a more mellow environment, that she would naturally just ease out, right? She would just calm down. The dog was flown to us. I, along with a friend, picked up the dog from the airport and transported them to Hillsburg, to the foster home. When the dog got to the airport, it was clear that this was a lot more extreme than I'd ever dealt with. And I have experience dealing with reactive dogs. This dog was very fearful. It took myself, my friend, the airport security, the pilot's wife, and somebody that was walking by to get this dog from one crate to the other. Then while trying to transfer the puppies into the crate kennel with her, we had to distract her. And so they stuck like a plastic funnel in one of the holes to try to get her attention. She latched onto it. We were able to get, I think it was like 4 puppies into the kennel with her. And she ripped that funnel through a plastic kennel, right? Ripped it right through. Like, I mean, it was pretty freaking a big old hole. Like freaking, it was. And so I called my foster and I said, hey, look it. And I explained to her, and she was like, this woman has a tremendous amount of experience with reactive dogs, large breed. And she was like, no, it's okay. We got this. Don't worry. She's going to have her own little space. We have a room set up for her. It's going to be good. And so we got her to Hillsburg. It took me, my friend, and then somebody that she had at her home, a friend of hers, come in, and we carried the dog in. As we're carrying the crate in, the dog's going crazy. I don't want her stepping on the puppies. So we had to take little breaks to get her into the room. I carried the rest of the puppies in. I put them down on the ground. Mind you, this is all on video. And so we didn't know exactly what to do. Like, as far as like, how do we get the puppies into the crate? Because she's snarling, she's snapping, so what do? We have to get the remaining puppies with her. So we all got out of the room, and then I unlatched the crate door, and we run out, right? Maybe not the best, but I mean, at this time we'd had no gear. When we went back in, she seemed to be a little calmer. The foster went to go put water down. She bit the foster. At that time, I asked the foster, what do we want to do? I couldn't bring her to my house. I was over capacity. Plus, I did not want to put the dogs that I had here in danger, and I didn't want to put her in danger. So the foster was like, well, let's give it a couple days, right? And I was very grateful for that. Animal control is twisting her words, and she's going to be coming to testify at trial. But they're making it sound like I made the dog attack her, or that I had disregard for its well-being. Hopefully, the advocates that from San Bernardino, that's right, it was San Bernardino, will be able to provide statements. That's not at all what was happening. It was because I had her best interest at heart that I tried to give her a chance. She's a new mom. Obviously, if she's that aggressive, something happened to her. Something made her. Dogs don't just do that. So there was a reason for her being like that. And I, along with my team, felt that if she was just given a quiet and calm environment and, was able to have the opportunity to, like, gradually, warm up, that everything would have worked out great. And it wasn't. It got to the point where the foster couldn't even get her to go to take her outside. I mean, there was no, we ended up getting like bike gloves, like, and people had a lot to say about that. So, the precautions that we did take, people didn't have, people weren't liking that either. We were trying to talk to her. We were trying to calm her down. I'm sorry. There's just, so anyway, so that's the second charge. Okay. And they are doing it for both A and B. Okay. So, and that's from May 2025. Then in March of 2025, so going back a little bit, Dogwood, I'm not saying, and this is not me saying that they're in competition. I mean, they're the elite rescue. I mean, like, there is no competition there. I mean, but what I'm saying is that they had somebody come to the house on false pretenses that they wanted to adopt, which I don't care. Like, hey, I understand it. That's, I've participated in activities such as, but that was an activity that was done specifically for just doing it here. It's not something that they do, like how we have an actual like group team that that's what they do, is they go in and they adopt or they foster or they volunteer in animal shelters, and to get the inside scoop, to ensure that there's transparency going on. So because I took more than 2 minutes, or I think it was like 5 minutes to get to the door, mind you, because I'm outside in the garage area with the dogs. I have to go in through the house, down the hallway, around, and go into, open the door. So because I took more than 5 minutes to, make sure everybody's settled and freaking go out there and that caused them to have concern, because the dogs were outside playing in the swimming pool. They were getting dirty and they were getting splashing around in the mud. That was, they said that the dog was dirty. Okay, well, they get baths, but if they're outside playing, jumping in and out of their little pool, guess what? They get dirty. Sorry that it wasn't, he wasn't wearing a bow tie for you, but she had no intention on at all, because they were more worried about like what type of rescue it was. It's a foster-based rescue. Like, all kinds of questions that had nothing to do with the dog. And the lady that allegedly was here to see the dog wasn't even the one talking. So, and they're, I'm not going to name any names, but when trial comes up, that's all going to come up. And then the next one was, so in December, when I was arrested, the charges for that date only are a violation of not having a kennel license and for having unlicensed dogs, which I was unaware that you had to have multiple licenses per dog. The dogs that came from the shelters are licensed through the shelters, and my personal dogs, my 4 dogs, are licensed through Sonoma County Animal Services. But allegedly and apparently, you have to have them in every town that you go in. I mean, at least that's what's supporting that being a charge. So, which, is fine. I have no problem like doing that. The dogs that are not neutered or spayed, actually, records have been provided from the shelters that they came from that they are actually neutered and spayed. The 3 that weren't was Alina, Butters, and Nichols, which all got neutered and spayed from North Bay Animal Services on the 1st. So it's not like that black and white. I know, I'm not trying to downplay this at all. I know what this looks like. It's embarrassing. And if you think that it's easy for me to come on here and like talk about this, then you have some serious problems. This is some serious stuff. And if this were true, I would be just right alongside you, demanding for their head and justice. But this is nothing more than an attempt to cover up not malpractice. That's not. Oh yeah, I guess so. Like somewhere in there being malpractice, considering the fact that when they're saying that I didn't get veterinary care, they're failing to let you guys know that they mean animal control went allegedly on their own accord, because both shelters are saying that they didn't ask for that. But animal control went to VCA Animal Hospital right down the road on Overwood Highway. Allegedly, this is what the clinic is telling me. when I took a puppy in that was 3 weeks old and they had blue gums and blue feet, and so I rushed it over there and I brought it in. She said, "Oh, well, we can't offer you vet care. The animal control told us not to give you care until they're done with their investigation." I said, "Well, can you give me some of the money that's on the account?" Because I had put in $12,000 down on the account to get the remaining of the dogs spayed and neutered, right? And to have all the puppy packages and all that, because I couldn't get any vet services from the Humane Society, from Dogwood. I had reached out and asked them, about spay and neuter. They said that they only give it to owners, which I understand. Okay, I understand. The shelters only give it to their dogs or to owners. So I understand that. So I had to go basically to a regular vet. Okay, fine. So that's why I put all that money into that account, and they wouldn't even release it. She said, "No, we can't touch the account. We can't do anything with the account until they tell us to." So I rushed down to the satellite office in Windsor. I freaking, Mark's not there. The little chubby white dude is there. And I'm like, telling him like, I need your help. VCA, this is what VCA said. And he's like, "Well, I can't go to VCA." Okay, I didn't ask you to go to VCA. I'm asking you to help me. There's a veterinarian right across a township or right across the street from your guys' satellite office. Or can you take the dog? I'll surrender the dog if I have to. Just help it. It can't. It's dying. And he handed me a business card. Mark says that I left before anybody could help me, but all that officer did was hand me a business card, which is on video because it was being live streamed. Thank you very much. So, the universe works in mysterious ways. Beth Wyatt from the Sonoma County Animal Services called me back because I had called her on the way to North Bay Animal Services satellite office and was like, "Well, I can't help you, as a pet owner, but if you come and surrender the pup, then we can perform care for it." Okay. So I rush the dog down there. I get there. She's waiting with the veterinarian. We get the dog there. They take the puppy to the back. I have to sign a surrender form, right? And on that form, I specifically say, which is all going to be a part of evidence. I'm still waiting for that back because now, of course, all of a sudden, the communications have dropped from both shelters in my public records request, but I've gone through the Department of Health to get it too. On that statement, it specifically says, "I am surrendering because this dog needs immediate emergency care, and I cannot get it at VCA Animal Hospital. VCA Animal Hospital claims that animal control is preventing me from getting that care, and I have no other options. Therefore, I am surrendering the puppy so that way it can get the help that it needs." It ended up dying like shortly after. In that time of all that BS, they could have helped the dog. That is not my fault. And that's not me trying to throw the blame off. Like, in my opinion, that puppy's life or loss of life is 100% on the hands of both shelters for at the very least not knowing what the heck their animal control officers are doing, and their animal control officer for taking it upon themselves to go in and tell them not to do vet care. So then later on, I go and I open up an account at the VCA on Mendocino Avenue. And once again, the animal control, which is employed by the sheriff's department, goes there and tells them that there's an investigation and not to offer me vet care. The shelters were reaching out to the shelters that I was working with and telling them whatever they were telling them. I can't say that, but I have made a list out of individuals that will be subpoenaed to come to the trial. So that way we can finally I can finally get an answer as to exactly who was the one that friggin' started this nonsense. Because what North Bay or whoever reported back to the town of Windsor is that those shelters reached out to them with concerns, and those shelters are telling me no, they reached out to us. So that'll all come out in the trial. I can't offer any much more of that right now because I'm not any of those individuals. So they were going and deliberately trying to take, like a Jenga, taking out these blocks wherever they could, preventing me from being able to get them spayed and neutered and getting their care. And I still made it happen. I still took them, and you know what, Angelina, I know that you're watching this, and yes, you did help me. A lady from the SRJC helped me tremendously. And I understand that she is expecting to get paid back. What she failed to understand is that I did have insurance on Bronze. But the fact that it kicked in on the second on the no, it kicked out. It's the plan started on the first, and his injury happened on the third or the second. Vice versa. Sorry. Let me just check that paperwork real quick. Because it didn't click on until the 5th, wasn't covered in the insurance. But I still was going to pay her back, for the care that she helped with her care credit. Because I'm truly grateful for that. And without her, she helped me a lot. But then when I did have the payment, she didn't come. I have a lot more other things going on than to be tracking her down. Maybe I should have made a more of an effort, but I let her know, come on this date. She didn't come. She didn't show. She didn't call. Nothing. Then all of a sudden calls and is demanding the full payment. Mind you, she has to make payments on the care credit, right? It's not that you don't pay it all at once. You make payments on it. And she was at the time of the care was like, oh, well, I have 6 months to do it. But then literally a couple weeks later was like, I need it all right now, cash. So I don't, I still have a check made out for her. Where did it go? Some of these are for attorneys, but I'm just going to show you like this. And North Bay Animal Services, the attorney, and her. Because I've been making donations to North Bay Animal Services. And also, so I have that written out for her. So anytime that you want to come pick it up and stop, trying to add on to the kerosene to the fire, my question is that if you felt that the dogs were in danger, why didn't you do something? As a mandated reporter, why didn't you step in and do something? Why would you have waited until you weren't paid back to all of a sudden have all these complaints? Just asking. And that you've taken me out of the area to get vet care because of the restrictions that Animal Control is putting on. But that doesn't get said. But had you gotten your money, I'm sure that you would have had a different tune to sing. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. So when it comes to the December 9th when it comes to the December 9th arrest, in order allegedly for being here for a unrelated probation search, coincidentally for an individual that is unrelated to that is unrelated to the residents, has never lived here, never once lived here. It was my adopted mom. At the time on December 9th, I had said, let me call her. Windsor Police Department said, no, it doesn't matter. You have to call probation. So of course, you know me, when I got out, I called probation and I asked them why my address was associated with her. And, why would they, if I could get a copy of that warrant or that order to do a probation search. What probation told me was that my mom is not on probation. They don't even have an address for her, but that they could see that Windsor Police Department made a change that date, and that only Windsor Police Department was going to be able to change that date or anything on that file because she wasn't on probation in their system. She's on informal probation, and only they can change what they change. Going on the Sonoma County data website where it has all the list of all the reports, it shows that the call for service came from, coincidentally, right behind my neighbor that's a Sonoma County Sheriff's house. I know that it pings off for, the identity safety or whatever, but it came from behind, it's saying where the Pool Creek estates are. That's where the call came in. It wasn't from the jail. It wasn't from the police department. It wasn't from probation. It was from right here. Which, when they came to my house, they already had the news people and the animal shelter and the town of Windsor here. As soon as I can get that other report thing, hold on really quick. I know, bear with me. I had this, believe it or not, it was all here already. And so, and then all of a sudden I was looking for something. And then, okay, wow. Just 1 second, because let me find, oh, there it is. Okay, so an unrelated probation search. Then why is it that it says that the call came in at 11:13? Mind you, they got here at 9 o'clock in the morning. Wait a minute, let's see like this. So, okay, like this, or wait, like this. Okay, so the call came in at 11:13, but the report was made at 11:14, and the type of case was a code enforcement follow-up, not a assist to arrest, not a animal endangered, not any of that. It is a follow-up. Well, if this was a unrelated incident, I would think that it would have an unrelated, unique identifier, its own case number, but it wasn't. But it had to look like that. It had to look like that because if it came here as they were searching for me being on informal probation for spitting, mind you, it would have looked like a witch hunt, and it would have confirmed that it would have made the rest of it much more easier to see. The fact that the news was already outside, the fact that the shelter was parked down by the mail trucks, the fact that the town of Windsor was here with them, it would have all been very obvious what was going on. But not if they were doing an unrelated probation search. Problem is that they did it for an individual who doesn't ever live here. So, and they did it to somebody who they didn't expect would go to the, above and beyond measures, which they should, considering I have a long history of that, of police auditing. If you don't know, then you should check out some of my other channels, because that's what I do. Is I will, if you're pulled over on the side of the road, I will go up and start videotaping it. I will get public records. The dog that was shot down by Windsor Police Department, actually, freaking, I helped that owner submit their complaint and start their lawsuit on the police department. And I also demanded that the officer prove that he was attacked. Show me your injuries. Let me see a note from a doctor. Because if you have enough injuries that justify you shooting a dog that is this big, I want to see the injuries that you got. Well, you can come in and talk to us. No, I don't need to talk to you. I'm asking you to email me a public records request of these photos. Let me see the injuries. Is that not that? It's not that hard. And why? And also, why would you lie and say you were trespassing on business territory when it was the Creek, and the business that you're referring to is the town of Windsor, which is entrusted by the people of Windsor? So really, how is that trespassing? To stop off by the Creek and take a breather and let your dogs get, play in the water or whatever. That is not justification for you coming up and shooting, because where's the business owner? And then therefore you're trespassing to tell them that they're trespassing. It was all messed up. But those are all, in addition to all of the stuff that I submitted to the grand jury. And yes, I'm gonna keep saying it. I submitted a lot of freaking evidence to them. I submitted a lot of requests for investigation, not into all of it, but into North Bay Animal Services, which then what they found in their investigation led to a countywide investigation. But you would know that if you read the civil grand jury report. So going back to this date, right? So it shows you when the time came in and when this was reported. In order for there to be an emergency, a veterinarian needs to say that there was, a need, an emergency need, and that the dog was in immediate danger. Yet no veterinarian was called on site. They had enough time to wait from 9 to, pretty much, I think I was transported like around 10:30, 11, right? Which allegedly the call came in at 11:13. So, I mean, kind of maybe that makes sense. I don't know. But they had enough time to wait for that, load me into the car, transport me, then load the dogs up, take the dogs to the shelter, then have the rest of them come back, then go to the vet. That's not an emergency. An emergency would have a vet on site right here. Not to mention that clearly by the civil grand jury report, North Bay Animal Services does not have the ability or authority to determine what an emergency is because they don't have any veterinary training. And I know that the city of Petaluma likes to say, well, they didn't specify what kind of certification they have. If we have to dumb it down, do they have any certificate in veterinary education? How are they veterinarian technicians? I know that they say they are, but are they? Because there is nothing on the California Veterinary Medical Board that can confirm that for any of you. Not to mention that North Bay Animal Services isn't a post-participating organization agency, which means that they don't have officers, which would make sense because the officers that do work for them haven't even reported to post that they work there. They are employed by the Sonoma County Sheriff's Department. Why all of the freaking, why is it so messy? Why is it allegedly completely different organization and nonprofit, but yet it has so much connection to the county shelter? And why is all this stuff overlooked? Your veterinary premise license, by the way, was expired in 2019, North Bay Animal Services. So, which brings me to my next thing. So the veterinarian that was on the 9th that saw the dogs on the 17th, which is way not even an emergency. Not to mention, wait, hold on, let me finish this part. My ADHD goes, and then I start going everywhere. But so the veterinarian, if that's who did this, this is what the report says. They don't know when a dog is neutered. They don't know how to scan the dog, get the dog's microchip, look the dog up, and confirm that it's neutered, because all of that, the neuter or the spay certificate, the rabies vaccination, the vaccination records, all of that can be, delivered through Shelter Love or email. Simple, not that hard. Considering the fact that 2 of those dogs were already taken and then sent back to their shelters, and then I had adopted them because they were going to die. So how is it that hard for North Bay Animal Services to confirm all that? Did they bother checking back in with the veterinarians to see if by chance that I would have, taken the dogs for care? No. And I asked her that at my trial. I said, did you check in with the veterinary clinics? And she said, no, we didn't. Of course they didn't, because as far as they knew, they had already told VCA not to give me any vet care. There was no need to check in with the local vets to see if I had in fact committed a crime of neglecting my dog's veterinary care. There was no need to see if I had gotten the things taken care of that they allegedly say that I didn't, because the last thing that they knew was that they had instructed them not to. So they didn't need to check in with them. That's what I take on it. Because if I'm going to do something that's going to change a dog's life or change a person's life, I'm going to get my facts straight and not just guess, make an assumption, especially when I have not a goddamn right to do so, because I don't have any training in anything other than arresting and holding a firearm. You would think that checking with the veterinarian, especially when that's the veterinarian is the only one that can determine if there is an emergency, you would think that would have been the first thing that they did. But they didn't. They did it 10 days later. Well, of course, not to mention that the veterinarian that did it, I called the clinic to get their license number, right? Because I was going to do what I do best, this license search. The clinic refused to give their license number up. Okay, fine, cool. Got his name, Mr. Stephen Wood. Looked him up. So you passed judgment on my staff, on my homes that have owners that have adopted and then lost their housing and have become homeless, but they still take care of their dogs. You can judge that, but it's okay for a veterinarian to have a disciplinary actions against them for being under the influence and driving and operating medical machinery. Don't take my word for it. Go to the California Veterinary Medical Board. Look for it yourself. That's a free website. It's a government website. Go there, check it out. License verification, and search up all the names, and you'll see for yourself that not one single one of the staff at North Bay Animal Services have any certification in veterinary medicine, and that Mark Scott's premise license was expired in 2019. Why? Why such a long time? Then technically you aren't able to perform things like vaccinations or any medical care unless you own the animals, right? Unless you have veterinarians that are willing to do it for you pretty much under the table, because there's no paper trail. Like Washington Square veterinarian that had fixed Petunia for me, and then when she came back with a broken tail, I was like, well, what happened? And now she's overweight. They wouldn't give me anything because they said Mark was the owner because he's the one that dropped her off. Okay, well, when luckily he had given me that paperwork from her spay and neuter, and when I checked with their license, the veterinary's license was expired. So, and when I asked Mark about it, he said, well, she's a very good veterinarian who does things that no other vet will do. Apparently, including not go and renew her license. Well, she's not running the practice. She works at somebody else's practice. Oh, so then that veterinarian is guilty of allowing somebody who hasn't gotten renewed to perform veterinary medical services on animals without having a current license. So it goes deeper and deeper. So the charges that they're giving me aren't a reflection of crimes that I committed. This is a reflection of trying, and it is them trying to cover up and justify things that have been done that I have pointed out and spoken out about very loudly, and documented and gone to the public with, of course, obviously been overlooked because you guys have a certain opinion, and that's fine. You guys can have whatever you want, whatever opinion you want. I really don't care. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care if you don't believe me, because it's not you that I need to, you don't have to defend the truth. And I don't need to convince you of anything, because you're, to me, nobody. What I'm doing is getting it off my chest, because as a person, as a pet owner, and as somebody that has dedicated my life to these dogs, you can think that I'm overwhelmed, that that's a lot of dogs, but that's your opinion. Just because you are too weak to handle that, I was fine. I don't mind with my every moment of every day being dedicated to them, because they are my life. And when I took on that responsibility of rescuing them, that meant for the rest of their life, not until it's inconvenient for me. Like the $37,000 that the town of Windsor is trying to sue for, which is what I had accepted help from the shelters previously to that to prevent, because it wasn't my home and I wasn't trying to cause any problems for where I lived. And they're older and they had nothing to do with it. She doesn't speak that well of English, and so because I spoke to them and they were my dogs, taking responsibility for my dogs, they twisted that whole thing and are still trying to freaking come after her. But I'm not. I'm taking full responsibility. Those were my dogs. She had nothing to do with them. And you know what? We did adopt them out. We did foster them out. But things happen. I don't know. Maybe the fact that the shelters are out there slandering my name. Maybe the fact that they're getting into people's ears. Maybe the fact that they're over there online putting things out that are untrue. That I'm a hoarder. That I don't have a nonprofit. Well, go to the IRS website. Go and check out the Department of Justice. Yes, the registration number is still it's still going through review, because you don't have to apply or register until 30 days after you receive your first grant, which I did, and it's still in their review period. What else? What was I going to say? I'm not saying that. Oh, that's right. This right here. So they keep saying, very in their evidence and all that stuff. They keep saying that it was a single car garage, and so that's not at all the truth. And hold on, because I just had that paper. Hold on. So here is a printout. Parking spaces. It is a 3-car garage. It is not a single car garage. It is a 3-car garage that was completely used for the dogs, except for my desk area, where I have my desk, so I can be out here with them. At this point, I really don't even care. At this point, I had said that I wasn't out here because they were getting on them for us staying out here. So we stopped staying out here, and we just were staying out here. We would just come and hang out. And there's a couch and there was a mattress that I too slept on when I wanted to take a nap or whatever. Make that up as you will. I'm not trying to incriminate myself or, but you can't live in the garage. But I did not leave the dogs locked up in the garage by themselves. I was always, me and everybody, we were always out here with them at all times. I couldn't leave a dog by themselves. They have the backyard, which is a side yard, in addition to the other side, because my father-in-law is a very gifted gardener, and his plants are his work of art. Well, they were, and he's older now, but so out of respect, I kept them out from over there. Plus, the front gate is over there, and I didn't want there to be any, I wanted to have them as less imposing on the house as possible, right? So they have a side yard that, and the door right here that lets them go in and out, in and out, in and out. We clean it every day. It's no different than a shelter. I know that the kennels that you see look okay, but have you ever seen the backside of North Bay Animal Services? At the end of the driveway when you turn right, have you ever gone back there and seen the kennels back there, or the utility closets that the dogs are kept in? Has nobody noticed the 5 or 3 gallon buckets of water that are in these kennels? But allegedly, that's what was my fault, is that I had a 5-gallon bucket. Well, first of all, the 5-gallon bucket wasn't their drinking water, okay? That was the water that was going to be used to mop up. That's why there was white, murky stuff in it. I didn't have a chance to get out here and start that because you guys freaking came and hauled us outside. So, I didn't have a chance to start doing that. But that's what we do, no brainer. You wake up, you freaking get everything ready. You get the dogs outside, you let them go play, you clean up, you put everybody back in. At least that's what the animal control officer told me to do, and that's what makes sense, right? Because you can't have dogs running around while you're out there trying to sweep up, mop, and all this crap. This was their play area. This was their sanctuary. Some of the dogs would be picked up at nighttime and go back to their respective fosters, people that could only foster overnight because they work or they have other things that they do or they're unhoused, and they would just have the dogs with them overnight, bring them back in the morning, and I would watch them because that's what I promised to do, was take care of them for the rest of their life. Dogs that were placed and then later on it came to find out that that person could no longer keep them. And if shelters are saying that they never experienced this, they're full of crap. But instead of having that dog go to a shelter, instead of having that dog go somewhere where I didn't know where they were or how they were, I always offer that and actually require that in exchange of an adoption fee, is that at any time that you can no longer take care of the animal, bring it back to me, because I would rather them be with me than be somewhere that I don't know where they are and know how they're doing. And you know what? That's where the dogs that were just taken, that's where most of them were what they are. They're not new dogs. You didn't take dogs and then we go get more. These are all part of the same litters. The same litters that North Bay Animal Services took parts of and sent back to where they knew that they were going to die and where they were killed for a lack of space, where they were happy and they were getting, interested, and I was setting up meet and greets and I was doing the best I could, but not fast enough. Not before they could slam the property owners with that $37,000 fee that had no right of doing, because it wasn't their fault. It wasn't anything to do with them. It was me. 100% me. It was my rescue. It was me. And I'm sorry for that if they ever watch this, and just know, that was never my intention. I didn't think that people could be that cruel and that not understand, or not being able to understand what it was that I was doing, because I thought that we had the same goal: to save dogs, to stop the killing of dogs, because every dog deserves a chance to live. I'm not saying that there wasn't a lot of dogs. It was. And yes, there was stress that came with that, but not towards the dogs at all. They were my only, they were my only sanity, focusing on them, taking care of them. That's what made it worth it. My stress came from the town of Windsor, came from the shelters breathing down my back, trying to find these dogs homes where they would be safe and not have to be, at risk in the near or distant future of being back in a shelter and at risk of losing their lives. Because even though Sonoma County Animal Services followed through on their promise and they were able to, as far as I know, most of them, communication has stopped, but for the most part, Beth had kept in contact with me and let me know when they were adopted, when they were going, their process. So a lot of them were able to get adopted. Some of them were transferred to Roanoke Park animal shelter. But North Bay Animal Services immediately, even though they promised that they said, we don't put down. And they promised that they were going to get them homes, and they just turned right around and sent them back where there wasn't any space for them. Sorry about that. And then again, blames it on the shelter, says, well, we call and give them that option. If they demand it, then we have to. And I know for a fact that's not what happened, because I know that the people, at least at the Stay Solace shelter and in Fresno, are always trying to save as many dogs as they can, and always trying to work and utilize their shelter partners as much as they can, and do as much as they can to send dogs that are already ready. But it's hard when they're puppies, right? When they're just born. So I know that those shelters didn't say, oh yeah, bring them back here so we can kill them. I know that that's not at all what happened, and that they would be, that's a no-brainer. They would be grateful for, a new geographic area, for new potential adopters to be able to see these dogs and give them another chance, a better chance at being adopted by people that didn't see them when they were previously over there, right? You would think, at least that's what I would think. I don't know what you would think. You can always, comment and let me know if that's just not a right way of thinking. Sorry, my ADHD and my emotions are kind of like. Um, so Daisy was adopted, and later come to find that she was abandoned. Thankfully, she was abandoned with somebody that I know knows, and I know, and the person, the lady is actually a really wonderful woman, and she loved Daisy, and Daisy loved her, but she was in a relationship that was not good for Daisy. And so instead of making Daisy be around that, she had a friend pick the dog up. My friend, without knowing that Daisy was Daisy, reached out, let me know. And I said, hey, that's Daisy. Go ahead and bring. So she brought her back to me. Daisy had really formed a bond with the woman that had her and was trying to get out of the yard. She ended up jumping through the window and over the fence and with another dog. And I was at the hospital visiting my mom because she's back in center right now, but she was diagnosed. She's in stage 4 lymphoma, and I was at the hospital visiting her. And when I got back, I saw the other dog, and I got them into the yard, and that is my fault. Again, you can switch my words up all you want, but yes, that was so I admit. Back it up. The night that I went to see my mom, got the dog back in, and I didn't notice that Daisy was gone. I was tired, emotionally drained, basically having spent that visit preparing to say goodbye to my mom, and coming home and just being so emotionally like drained that I just collapsed. And the next day I was like, well, wait a minute, where's Daisy? And like, okay, well, maybe she was the one that was, because there was dogs that had went out on a walk. People came, volunteers came, and they take them for walks. I said, okay, well, maybe that was a dog, and I just missed it. No, then I saw the video of my neighbor taking the dog, knowing that whose dog it was. The neighbor could have brought the dog back, but they didn't, because they are just Karens that know everything. So the fact that they're lying about what Daisy looked like then and what she looks like now. I mean, if they're the ones that were this hero, you would think that, well, then you have a good idea what she looked like. And you would know damn well that the picture that I posted of what she looked like the last day that I had her and what she looks like now. And if, regardless of what you want the public to think, you should be ashamed of yourself for lying and knowing that dog is clearly had digressed in the shelter's care. Clearly. But luckily she was adopted, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Grateful that North Bay didn't send her back to Modesto, and I'm happy that she found a home, and I know that she is an amazing girl that will make you very happy. And I hope that they're just understanding and that they, are patient with her, because like I said, she was very depressed when she got back here. She wanted to be with the lady that she had her. And I was trying to work out, the lady to come visit her and try to see if there wasn't something we could do, maybe if she got into some type of shelter for women, she could have the dog with her. How do we, all that stuff. But it didn't happen that way. And things happen for a reason. So, now she has a family of her own, and I'm very, very happy for her. But her 2 of her children are in the dogs that were that are in the shelter. One of them, which is already adopted, Butterscotch, but her owner has attempted to provide that proof to Mark, and Mark just stopped communicating with him. Several people that dropped dogs off here, the dogs that would be picked up at nighttime, the ones that were here for just daycare, those owners have been in contact with the shelter like continuously, and are told, we can't do nothing, those dogs aren't available, blah, blah. Okay, but those are their dogs. Why are you refusing to return the dogs back to their owners? It was ruled at the hearing that I could go and pay the lien that you guys have on the dogs, which is their tactic, and get the dogs. I just can't have the dogs here. Okay, well, they're not going to be here. They're with the people that understand that I can't provide care for them. I can't help you anymore. So you're going to have to freaking come up with other things. But because they're their dogs, of course they're going to. So why aren't you respecting that? Why are you illegally keeping dogs that you have records for that are adopted from their owners? People have gone out, people that don't even have vehicles have gone out to Petaluma several times and just been turned away. So it's not like nobody cares. It's not like nobody's trying. There is more than trying going on here. but the shelter, I've even said, I want the dogs to be adopted. All you people that have so much to say, step up and adopt them. They're all amazing dogs. Okay. Yes, 2 of them had gotten into it, but that's because one is reacted to on toys. And in the videos that I will be giving, and you can see on my Facebook page and my TikTok that will be presented at trial with timestamps, mind you, the dogs didn't have those injuries the night before. Meaning, and in the newspaper, it says that it was bleeding. Of course, the dogs are going to react and get freaking stimulated when you got officers coming in with their guns drawn, screaming, police, everybody out. That's a no-brainer. So yeah, that happened. I wasn't in here to prevent it. But instead of taking responsibility and instead of being transparent, they try to they throw in a charge on animal cruelty, dog fighting. That's not what happened. I wasn't even here, and I wasn't abandonment. I was being detained. So these are all things that I'm not saying I didn't have any role in. I'm not saying I have no part in. I do. I should have had a facility. I should have had my ducks in a row before I started the rescue. I know that. But the need that there is to save lives is bigger than what you guys know or are willing to know. You all live in a fantasy world and believe that we don't kill for space. Okay, well, even if that were true, that's not necessarily great. How would you feel being kept in a jail cell? And that's what it is. Even if you're taken out for 10 minutes a day, then you're just put right back into a kennel, you're in a jail cell. Being ignored, dogs are highly social creatures. They don't belong in a freaking jail cell. They didn't do anything wrong. Here, yes, a 3-car garage still isn't that big, but you know what? They were free. They were loved. And they were cared for. And yeah, there was only 4 50-pound bags of dog food. The newspaper failed to say 50-pound bags of dog food. But there's also a freezer that's full of chicken and a pantry that's full of freaking vegetables and potatoes and rice. Big, 30-pound bags of rice. Because I cook and mix it in with their dry food. And the dogs that came from the shelters with things like Giardia, I got that treated as best I could when I was going to, getting the store-bought stuff at Tractor Supply, and also going to veterinarians like the VCA West. All the while, I have animal control following me and telling them to stop and not give me care. So looking into natural remedies, I did as best as I could with people in power deliberately putting roadblocks in my way, because for my existence to be allowed shows their faults. I started my rescue, and it is a rescue, and you're not going to make me feel any different because it has the same formulation process that North Bay Animal Services does. I went through LegalZoom just like them. If you don't take my word for it, get their formulation papers. You can actually get those from the California Veterinary Medical Board as well, because the ones that I got from them are different. I'm just saying, don't know what that's about or why that is, but I'm just letting you know. And the veterinarian at the VCA, the first one that can't give me vet care because they told him to, is the first licensed veterinary premise manager license manager for North Bay Animal Services. Catherine, or whatever her name is, Bolt or whatever. So, is it a conspiracy? Am I crazy? I'm just saying, put yourself in my shoes. How would you feel? You're so quick to hear, what they want to tell you and jump to all these conclusions and tell me that I need to take responsibility. I should be ashamed of myself. For what exactly? What can you say that that I did that I should be ashamed of and that is wrong? Not what you're being told. What do you know with your own eyes, your own hands, what do you know? And how do you know that? Because you're being told this by agencies that time and time again have come to light of doing wrong, that settle out of court with lawsuits, that shoot 15-year-old kids, that sit there and pull people of color out of their vehicles and slam them down on the freaking on the curb and bust their teeth out. I bet you guys didn't know about the McDonald case in Windsor in 2019. Yeah, or kill dogs with tranquilizer because you give them too much of it hasn't even been reconstructed yet when you were supposed to give it back to the veterinarian, and the veterinarian said in their report to the DEA that you didn't. You were given a 5 milliliter bottle. You returned an empty bottle, and you're claiming to only give the dog a milliliter. Still not reconstructed. Mark Scott. But did any of that ever hit the newspaper? No, it didn't. It never. The animal advisory boards. Why are they all dissolved? Why did Petaluma dissolve their animal service advisory board? Well, go to Petaluma Army of Kindness and see for yourself, because too many people, including those that are also in power, were speaking out against the shelter. So ask yourself, why would it be so important to defend the shelter that was clearly doing dangerous and life-threatening and ending wrongs? Why did they go put so much effort into covering that up and supporting them? Because my opinion is that if you have the government shelter and you have the nonprofit, but yet there's still two arms, they're two arms of the same body, that's a whole lot of monopolizing on the freaking money aspect of it. Because not only do you get the budget for you, then you can just go in and suck up all of the money that's meant for nonprofits as well. And then utilize things like inmates and freaking volunteers to do all the dirty work, all the while you sitting at a desk playing like God and making $206,000 a year. I'm just saying. Not having a kennel license it's an ordinance. I didn't have one, but it's not because I was denied one. It's not because it was revoked. It was because they refused to allow me to even apply. I asked for the application. They ignore me. They tell me I can get one, and verbally, not written. I email them again and ask them. All bull shelters. Never got an answer. So I write out on a document form, formal request to apply for kennel license, not knowing what the questions on the thing will be, because again, I'm not given that pamphlet. So I just go to the Department of Agriculture, that one. I go and I'm looking at all these different ones, the licenses that shelters take in order to, the dealer, exhibitor, all that. And I'm like scared by the questions that they ask, because I don't want to sell body parts and I don't want to sell fluids or tissue. I just want to adopt dogs out. And I don't want to be just solely the person that takes them from one place to another. I want to be able to rescue them and rehome them. So in my form saying, I'm not really sure what your questions are, but if, as far as these questions go, let me just answer them just so I can have something related, answer them to the best of my ability. And then in writing, say, this is what my goal is. This is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. I need this to do this because of this, AYZ, very written out. And still to this day, in the paper, Mark Scott claims that, that I've inquired about one, but you don't know if I've formally applied. Well, that's a lie. I haven't, because you refused to give me the application. So, so it's not like I had a disregard for what I was supposed to be doing. Those dogs are my everything. I didn't breed them. A dog of mine did get pregnant because dogs that were from the shelter had come to me unneutered, but are now neutered. Later on, I was able to get them neutered. But you know what? I wasn't intentionally breeding. And every time I reached out to the shelters and said, look, I need spay and neuter. I need to get these dogs fixed. There's another litter. I know what it sounds like to you guys. Trust me, I know. Because I'm the one saying it. And it's embarrassing. One time a mistake, 2 times maybe, but it's not. But I did not have the services available to me to prevent that. I was getting the vaccinations at the Humane Society, and then they told me no, because it would be piggybacking on their resources. So, yes, was I dishonest a little bit? Yes. So then I would just take them like they were mine. Okay, fine, then I'll keep them. Tell me that you haven't done that. That you on a form of something or you're, this isn't to incriminate. I'm just saying to be relatable, whether it be taxes or doctor forms or release forms or something, that you haven't put a generalization on something to benefit you, or a general limitation on something to benefit you. So yeah, if it's between getting the dogs vaccinated or not, having them susceptible to diseases, yeah, sure, go ahead. They're all mine. Technically, they all are mine. If I'm one of the founders of the rescue, right? I mean, is that not the way everything works? Is finding how it fits into things? It wasn't like, ooh, I think I'm going to, lie. No, it was like, well, I guess you could say that if you're looking at it from this point of view, that this is what it is. And so, okay, sure, why not? But then even that eventually became to where they weren't happy with that and stopped. Jorge, I forgot his Dominguez, not Dominguez, or Delgado, something like that, was like, you can't do that. We'll reach out to you to see what them offering me a service for the rescue, and then I can refer people to them to go get the service, the shots, meaning that the puppies would have to leave my care unvaccinated, but I would refer them to go get them at the Humane Society, which, even though was my understanding specifically in the Hayden's Act, is that they all had to be vaccinated, fixed, and rabies and all that before. So I'm thinking, okay, well then, if I foster to adopt like the shelters do, then I could send them out unvaccinated and then refer them to go there. But because there wasn't a legal finalized adoption, that was an issue. So it's not like I just grabbed these dogs and then hoarded them in this garage. Like, what would I be doing with them? I will always do everything that I can for them and everybody else. And if the ones that were taken before them, their brothers and their sisters, were alive today, I would do it for them too. Because when you bring a dog into your life, it's for the rest of that dog's life, not until it's inconvenient for you. Not because your town is going to give you freaking $37,000 because your neighbors are nosy neighbors and you are mad at you because you complained on them and got them in trouble at work allegedly. All because I'm just telling you, freaking, I believe that you were using poison for the rats, right? My dog got a hold of the poison. How, as a pet parent, if your cat or dog died in your arms from being poisoned by a rat that got a hold of rat poisoning, would you not be angry at your neighbors for using harmful chemicals that would put every animal in that neighborhood at risk? So yes, in my opinion, my belief is that you poisoned my dog, because there are other things that you can use that aren't poison and harmful. That doesn't mean that you put it in their food and gave it to them. No, that means that you did the easy way out, and you used a harmful poison that the rats ate, and later on my dog got a hold of and died in my arms on Christmas. And yes, I made a complaint. It wasn't, nothing happened to it because technically that's not a crime, right? But, but I still made a complaint. And that was the first time that my neighbor was, like, oh, well, you're going to be calling my work, blah, blah. Well, you know what? No, but with your attitude, you think that you could pop your gut out outside, you driving your dirt bike up and down doing wheelies in the freaking goddamn court. Yeah. Just because you're an officer doesn't mean that you could do whatever you want. Not you asking every single person that comes to my house, volunteers, visitors, family, what are you doing here? Why are you over here? What's your business here? What is it of you, dude? You ain't even on duty. Back the up. You are a public servant. You aren't a freaking god. You don't own this court. You inherited it when your grandmama died. You didn't even buy it. Who are you going to sit there and tell my freaking my workers what they doing here? What are you doing here? Nobody talks about you freaking and your girlfriend sneaking in while your wife is all doing overnights on her nursing freaking thing, and then you moving new bitches up in here. No one cares about what you're doing. Why are you over here in my business? It wasn't for the dog's safety, because if it was for the dog's safety, these dogs would have been taken a long time ago. If the dogs were in danger, something would have been done a long time ago. This is because no matter how much they complained, I was still doing what was right, and they knew it, and they could not legally do anything. So what? Now they have to go in and reach for straws. And yeah, it looks really ugly. And all that I'm asking you to do is to wait until trial. Wait till I have been given my right as an American, which I should be even more entitled to as a Native American, to have my day in court and be judged by a jury of members of my peers, after they have heard everything, after the witnesses have been called, the statements have been provided, the records have been cross-examined, and the jury comes to their decision. Then continue your hate mail and telling me that I should hang myself and that I should be ashamed of myself. Because you're only operating off of a little very portion of it. But yet the exact same things that actually were true, that you were given proof from, not just by me, but by a civil grand jury, What, did you guys just forget about all that? That can do. This is them using me as a way to redeem themselves. And to you, I'm nobody, so it doesn't matter. You're like, yeah, okay, whatever. You buy into it. It doesn't mean anything to you. But what happens when I'm already off the board, and anybody like me, in your opinion, is off the board? Then who are they going to turn to? It could be you, anytime. Piss off the wrong person, say the wrong thing, speak up for yourself, not allow them to walk over your rights, and you become a target. And that's not just me. That's anybody that ever. Nancy Schaefer. What about that lawyer that was just executed that was going to take on a civil rights case for CPS in Costa County? Think about any person that has ever spoken out about the way our government's run. What happens to them? I mean, I've been told literally by a lawyer, right, that's not representing me, but is a friend, a very good friend of mine, to be careful, and that I shouldn't talk like this because I could end up on the side of a road somewhere. And I laughed it off, right? But when I think about it later, it's like, well, like, that's really like, what happened to the First Amendment? Why are you so afraid to speak out? Well, I mean, I understand it, but I don't understand how you don't see that the only way it's ever going to change is by continuing to speak out. Because those can only be governed by when they give permission to be governed. And I know for myself, I'm not giving the permission to somebody who disregards my rights, thinks of me less than, thinks of themselves as a superior being, walks around, bending rules for themselves, stepping over rights, disregarding federal penal codes. That's not the type of government that I want. And mind you, I'm not saying that their job is easy. I mean, there's a reason that I don't do it, right? I couldn't do it. But that doesn't give them the right to treat people unequal and unjustly. I have, my own history. I grew up in foster care. I don't have a high school diploma. I tend to hang out with underdogs, but I also have a bachelor's in science and criminal justice. I just finished my second term of vet tech courses at the JC and am now back into my paralegal and computer studies science class. I also have well over 200 certificates from the ASPCA continued education that the shelters are required to do, anybody in animal welfare, I don't ever see, those would, in my thought going back, that would be the specific certification that we would want to know whether you have, right? But they didn't even touch that. I've provided all of that. I have the office where I have the office so I can be hands-on with the dogs while doing trainings, while educating myself, while learning, because nobody was willing to teach me. And it's pretty like a no-brainer, take care of them. Well, you just take care of them on a mass scale. And I learned as I went along. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to run a nonprofit. I didn't know any of that, but I knew that dogs were dying and that it bothered me. It bothered me to know that babies were being raised on cement floors, that they were being ripped away from their mom, that they were being dished out and separated. I mean, imagine how that would feel. And having that background in foster care, I know what that feels like. Imagine that happening and you not even being able to understand because you don't speak the same language. And what I'll close with is, how do you get an email? Because I didn't go seeking these dogs out. I don't go stealing people's animals. I don't go ask. We don't take surrenders from the public unless it's a very like a huge emergency, meaning that the shelters refuse to take them, even though they're open to mission. Now, can I confirm that that's what the situation is? No. But from what I'm told from the owner is that they have tried every single resource and they don't have any. And they're basically, when it comes to the point of whether it's either give them to me or they're going to leave them somewhere, then yes, we will take them in. But we don't take public surrenders. We only take them from government shelters that are in high kill areas that are killing for space, whether they are masking it by saying behavioral issues, whatever the hell, it's for space. Making space is the underlying motivation. And that is a violation of the Hayden's Act. And it's wrong. So how do you get an email with 5 moms with brand new babies, or 4 moms with babies and 1 expecting, or whatever combination of that? And how do you, knowing that you have been specifically asked for to be contacted only when nobody else will step up, How do you choose which ones are going to live and which ones aren't? Knowing that the ones that you walk away with are safe, but you're leaving the ones behind that you most likely won't wake up to see tomorrow morning. So it sounds like a lot of dogs, but what you're failing to see is that they were moms with little tiny babies. Little tiny babies. So they don't take up that much space. And when the foster doesn't work out, what am I supposed to do? Separate them from their moms like the shelters do? No. I don't believe that a puppy should be separated from their mom at 8 weeks. I believe that dogs, no matter how domesticated, still have ancestors of wolves, and wolves are pack animals. Beth Wyatt even made a comment on she's never seen dogs live together that well. My dogs lived in a community. They helped each other. When Icarus came, it was with her pups, right? And then when Daisy came, she had a C-section. She had complications. Her milk didn't come in. And Icarus took it upon herself. She jumped over because we had the pen around the kennel part. She jumped over. I'm trying to move slowly and fast at the same time because it's urgent. I don't want there to be a fight. Trying to get there. But Daisy allowed for her to come in. Icarus fed Daisy's puppies for her. And then when Daisy's milk started coming in, Icarus was like, it's your turn. But by that time, they all had teeth. And Daisy would jump up on the crate and try to hide. And Icarus was like, freaking, it's your turn. Like, I did for you, now pay back. And the rest of the moms that came in, it was beautiful. You would see one mom with puppies from that mom. They all took turns. And they all kept them in line. And they all lived happily as a community. Were there fights? Yeah, there were. But immediately they were broken up. It was times that the dogs were either outside while we were cleaning, or, heaven forbid, should I step out to go to the bathroom? But there was never any huge fights except for one that I called Mark. And the way that it's being is that I abandoned the dog. No, the dog was adopted. I had adopted the dog with the intention of rehoming the dog, but I wasn't pulling the dog as a rescue because at that time I wasn't a rescue. So I adopted the dog and was going to give, because she was going to die. She was on the kid. She had 24 hours. I adopted the dog out. The dog, I don't know exactly what happened. The dog got into a fight over on Brooks. The owner called me. I called Mark and was like, hey, this is the situation. He told me to take the dog to VC Animal Hospital, which I did. And I told him I can't bring him here. I can't bring him, bring her here. It's pretty bad. He said, it's okay. I'll pick her up. They're trying to say that that's one of the cases that I abandoned a dog. If I abandoned the dog, I would have just hung up on the person and not even said anything and just let the dog roam the streets and be picked up and taken, not taking the dog to the vet where he could get immediate care with the understanding that the shelter would pick it up and she would be safe. But he did pick her up, and then he sent her right back to where she wasn't put back into danger for being put down. So what do? Well, I guess if you're watching this, it's kind of clear what you would do. And your judgment of me clearly supports and confirms what you would do. But that's you. That's not me. I can't look the other way while an animal is in need. I can't ignore that an animal is going to die well before it's time because we humans suck and our policies suck and nobody wants to do anything because it's a way that our system generates money, just like prisoners. I can't help the fact that people are stupid and that things are the way that they are until they're not. Slavery was in until it wasn't. The women having only rights to be in the kitchen and pregnant was the thing until it isn't. People of color going to, college and school wasn't an in thing until it was. Animals are the last thing that we, as the melting pot, are reforming because it's the last, in my opinion, the last little, hope that they have of monopolizing. But that's not what it's about. The land of the free should be free for everybody, including every creature that calls it home. And that includes your dogs. And I don't look at a dog like they're an inventory. I don't look at a dog like they're a piece of property. I look at them like they're my fur baby. That's why it hurts so much that Nick, Nichols, and Butterscotch, and Butters, and Icy and Minnie and Bronze and Chance and Pubert and Dottie and Alina and Quinn and Newitt and the little tiny babies are sitting where they're sitting because they don't deserve that. And all I ever wanted to do was help them. And I've asked for help. I've posted them online. You know, we can't cry over spilt milk. What's done is done. But I'm asking you, in the energy that it takes for you judging me, step up and show me how to do it better. And show me by adopting them. Show me by fostering them. I'm more than happy to surrender them only if they will go to a home, which I have written out to Mark in text messages and in emails that are ignored. I will gladly surrender them if there's a home that will take them. But I want you to put in writing that you promise not to send them back where they're going to die, and he won't do it. So why don't you ask that question? Why won't he guarantee that he won't send them back where they're going to die if all he's doing is helping? Why do they have to die? Because you're mad at me? Because you're trying to make an example out of me? As Brian Whipple says, the part of the goal is that we can get her to understand that she's in over her head. No, I'm not. I was fine. The stress doesn't come from the dogs. It comes from you and people. Humans stress me out, not dogs. And my team is a reflection of that. Everybody feels the same way. That where there's a will, there's a way. And you truly have to exhaust all of those options before considering killing them because it's convenient for you. And I'm not saying that dogwoods in competition, but you know what? They sure have a lot of, motivation to side with them, and the fact that the lady that founded Sherry, whatever, was an ACO for the county shelter for 15 years and was on the board of directors. At least I have the paper that's showing her name on it from North Animal Services. How is that not a clear indication of monopolization? I mean, granted, yeah, it's not uncommon for nonprofits to have, shared board members. But I mean, like, when they're only the same set of people, places like Cowpaws, they're not even from here. They're from, like, what, Fortuna? The Dogwood has kennels in Fresno. Sorry, I have a booger in my nose. I'm just saying that, they have all those things because they have a large network, and that's great because dogs are being saved. But that is the reason for supporting the annihilation of my rescue, because then it adds competition. Just a no-brainer. But I don't want to be a competition. I never wanted to be a competition. And, in response to Brian's comment, well, then don't open your own, just go help. I understand that. But when you help somewhere that you disagree so much with their policies and the way that they run things and the way that animals are treated and the way that freaking you have no say over it. As a volunteer, I ask you, do you agree with every single decision and action that is done in the facilities or agencies or rescues that you volunteer for? Has there not ever been a time where you don't agree with the decision that's being made, but ultimately you have no say because you're just a volunteer? Well, that feeling that you get, that frustration and that hopelessness and that desperation and trying to, like, not make a scene, but make it, known that what you're saying is important. That's what drove me to open up my rescue. Even with not having anybody willing to show me how to do it. And all I'm asking for is understanding. If you can't give me that now, then at least give me a chance to be tried and proven to be guilty. And I guess the most important thing is that step up if you can, and help these dogs. Because if not, they're going to be sent back where they're going to die. And I can tell you that for sure, because that's what he does every time. And the fact that he won't write it out, that he promises that he won't. So please, I will surrender my rights if I can find them homes. And that's all that I'm waiting for. I can go pick them up, but I'm not going to pick them up just to bring them back to the same situation. So if you are willing to give one of these dogs a home that deserves it, sorry, then contact Mark. You don't have to contact me. Just contact Mark and freaking we can do that. So I'm gonna get off because it's been like way over an hour and I'm just like need to take a mental break. But thank you for watching.